2 years ago, my life completely unraveled. I was 35 years old, married to my wife for 7 years, and we had a beautiful son, now 8. Then, out of nowhere, my wife, 34, came out as a lesbian. She'd been having an affair with a female coworker for months, and the news hit me like a freight train. I had no idea. We'd been happy, at least, I thought we were. I felt betrayed, like everything I knew about our marriage had been a lie. She'd hidden her truth from me, only admitting to it after meeting her now wife. When I confronted her, she explained that she'd suppressed her true identity for years, and meeting her partner made her realize she couldn't keep living in denial. She still claimed to love me, but it wasn't the same as the love she had for her new partner. It felt like a punch to the gut. The divorce was swift. She didn't want anything from me, and we agreed on joint custody of our son. I chose to go no contact with her, only communicating through my sister, who became my rock after I moved in with her. I sold the house, and we decided together that the proceeds would go into a college fund for our son. I couldn't stand to stay there. The house was filled with memories that only reminded me of what I'd lost. For a while, I fell into a deep depression. I couldn't stop asking myself where I went wrong. My sister, along with my college ex-girlfriend who'd come back into my life, helped me through the darkest days. After a year, my ex-girlfriend and I started dating, and I introduced her to my son. During all of this, my ex's partner was only lightly involved with our son, as my ex wanted to let him adjust. My son was old enough to understand that mommy had a girlfriend and that his parents weren't together anymore, but he wasn't quite ready for the complexities of it all. I didn't want to push the LGBTQ+ talk on him too soon, but I was proud of how well he had processed the divorce. About 8 months ago, my ex announced that she was engaged and moving in with her partner. They were planning a wedding in Spain, where her partner lived, and invited me. I declined, as I didn't want to relive that part of my life. She wanted our son to come, even though it meant he'd miss school for a week. I told her that was unreasonable, and that the wedding should happen during his school break. She insisted, so I reluctantly agreed. It was her right to have him there. The trouble came after the wedding when my ex wanted to take our son with her on her honeymoon. She argued it would be a good bonding time with her new wife. I didn't agree. I reminded her that I had already made plans with our son, and that I was entitled to my time with him, too. We had a week-in, week-out custody arrangement, and I wasn't going to let that slip. I had planned a motorcycle expo trip and a Lego building session, which our son loved. After some back and forth, I stood my ground,
and she stormed off.
When my son returned, I saw a photo my ex posted online with a caption, #lesbianmemes, showing them as a family. Something about it unsettled me. I talked to my son,
who revealed that his mom had been encouraging him to call her partner Mom.
That hit me hard. I'd never expected her to do that, and it felt wrong. I called my ex and asked to meet. When we sat down, I confronted her. She defended the idea, saying that now they were married, our son should have 2 moms. I disagreed, explaining that it wasn't right to pressure him into calling her partner Mom. His mom might be married to her partner, but she wasn't his mother, and I made it clear, major decisions about his upbringing required both of us to agree. She then dropped a bombshell. She and her wife were hoping to adopt our son in the future. They wanted legal guardianship and to raise him as their own. I was stunned. The thought of them trying to replace me in his life shook me to the core. I told her absolutely not and made it clear that our partners have no say in our child's life decisions. She accused me of being homophobic for not allowing her to have a complete family, and I firmly stated that while I respect her choices, our son's future is something we should decide together as his parents. I ended the conversation there and told my son that if his mom ever pressures him into anything he doesn't want to do, he should let me know. 3 weeks later, I found out that my ex had enrolled our son in Spanish lessons, something he told me he hated. For context, my ex is Latina, and her partner is Spanish, so they naturally communicate in Spanish. We had initially decided to raise our son in English,
as she speaks it better.
And I don't speak any Spanish. When I confronted my ex, she explained that she wanted our son to connect more with his heritage. I told her I had no problem with that, but we'd tried introducing Spanish before when we were married, and he had shown no interest. She insisted that this time would be different because now there would be 2 Spanish speakers in the house. I told her I supported bilingualism, but if he wasn't interested, it wouldn't make sense to force him into it. Maybe try another language instead, if that was the goal. She flipped out, accusing me of denying our son his roots and denying her the right to have a complete family. she went off on me.
Bringing up the whole family thing again.
My girlfriend, who usually avoids getting involved in these matters, suggested I contact my lawyer to understand what my rights were in this situation. When I spoke to my lawyer, he reassured me that even if my ex tried to pursue adoption, I could contest it. He said it would take something extreme, like abandonment, to overrule my objections. Still, seeing my ex post pictures of our son as part of her new family really triggered me. 2 weeks ago, I had my first face-to-face interaction with my ex's new wife. After the divorce, she reached out and asked to meet. She told me that my ex was finally recovering from the social fallout of coming out and building a life with her,
and that I was now standing in the way of their happiness.
She accused me of being cold and uncaring throughout the divorce and guilt-tripping my ex into agreeing to 50-50 custody. She went on to say that I should just accept the eventual adoption because my ex's wife had always wanted a child, and I could still see our son.
I didn't care about her emotional state during the divorce.
And I told her my demands were completely reasonable, even to the most unreasonable person. If they wanted to create this ideal image of a perfect family, I told her they should have their own child, one with no ties to me. What's bothering me most right now is that I feel this whole situation is affecting my son more than anything else. He's not as happy as he was just a few months ago when we were starting to adjust to our new normal. As a bit of context for those asking, my ex's coming out was not without its complications. Her family effectively disowned her after she came out, and they weren't even aware of the affair. However, my son has regular contact with his maternal grandparents when he's with me, and they're still involved in his life. My ex's family disowned her, some because of the affair, others due to her sexuality. Even her friends distanced themselves from her once they found out about the affair. Financially, my ex makes less money than me, but her partner is in a senior position, which gives them more stability. This is something my ex used to argue when discussing adoption, saying that they could provide a better life for our son, including sending him to private school. I'm not sure if the political climate and recent elections played a role, but I don't believe they're trying to rush the adoption process. They want to wait a few years before proceeding, but I'm not entirely convinced this is the case. Update 1. Hey everyone, I appreciate all the feedback, and I just wanted to give a quick update on the situation. First off, my son and I have been going to therapy since the divorce. He was doing well until things with his mom started to get complicated. Regarding my ex's family, after my ex came out, her parents cut ties with her. They didn't know about the affair, and when she came out to them, they disowned her. However, they still maintain a relationship with my son, on the condition that they don't badmouth her in front of him. They've agreed to this, and I've been present during all their interactions to make sure nothing inappropriate is said.
It's also worth mentioning that my ex's extended family has distanced themselves from her.
Some cut her off due to the affair, and others because of her sexuality. It's actually been a relief for me when she told me she made a friend on her own, as she used to complain about not getting along with her coworkers. We all know how that turned out. As for the potential move or adoption, I don't think they're planning to leave the country. I've kept my son's documents in my possession since the divorce, and I don't anticipate any issues with that. She returned his passport when we came back from the wedding in Spain. The whole adoption conversation likely stems from the fact that my son and my ex have a very close relationship. He's voiced concerns to me, though, mainly about the pressure to call her partner mom and the Spanish lessons. I've tried to make things as equal as possible for him, and during the COVID period, I traveled a lot to take care of my parents, which meant my sister was stepping in for a while. She agreed with my decisions, as well. Lastly, regarding the adoption, my lawyer, who is also a friend, told me that I could contest it, and unless there's something major like abandonment, I'd likely keep custody.
If the adoption talk continues and if my ex badmouths me to our son,
I could take legal action, but I haven't heard anything like that from him. I plan to meet with my ex today and lay out a few conditions. We both install a parenting app and document all communications. No more discussion about adoption or asking my son to call her partner mom. No more public posts of my son on social media as part of their family. I'll update after I speak with her. Update 2. Hey everyone, thanks again for the support. I finally had that conversation with my ex today after taking some time to process everything. When I met with my ex, I laid down my demands clearly. She was okay with the parenting app idea, and there was no issue there. However, When I told her that the idea of adoption and calling her partner Mom wasn't going to happen, she became visibly upset. She explained that her family had been pressuring her to settle down, and she had proposed marriage after a year of dating. I didn't know this at the time, but she felt getting pregnant so soon after marriage wasn't what she had envisioned. Her pregnancy came 5 years after their marriage. Would you consider that soon? She opened up about her struggles, telling me she had been in the closet all her life because of her parents' expectations. She had hoped that marrying me would somehow make her feelings subside, but she admitted that she was truly happy until she met her partner. She did mention going through postpartum depression after giving birth, but I wasn't aware that she had felt conflicted about getting pregnant so soon. The conversation then took a turn when she revealed the real reason why she and her wife wanted to adopt my son. They wanted to start anew. She confessed that she had never really been happy during our marriage and that with her new wife, she believed she could finally have the family she'd always dreamed of. She even expressed that she didn't want our son to grow up resenting her for being a lesbian, because he didn't have exposure to others like them. To be honest, I didn't know any gay people growing up, and no one in my circle identifies as gay. It simply wasn't a topic that came up in our lives. But that doesn't mean my son and I are clueless about these things, especially now after the divorce. I told her that our son has already had exposure to her community and that I wasn't buying her reason for wanting to adopt him. It felt like she was trying to create a story to justify separating me from my son. After some more back and forth, she finally told me the truth. They were considering moving to Spain in a few years and wanted to adopt my son in case they did. I made it clear that this was not happening. She knows she can't just take him out of the country without my consent, just like when they got married in Spain. I did some research after reading a comment on Reddit, and it became clear to me that she couldn't just pull something like this off. She admitted that they had done their research and were testing the waters to see if I'd agree to the adoption. If I did, they would consider moving. If I didn't, they still wanted to, because she didn't want to be separated from my son. I again emphasized that this was not going to happen. If she tried anything or spoke ill of me to our son, I would take legal action for full custody. That seemed to get through to her, as she looked visibly worried about losing custody. I don't think she had fully realized what that would mean until that moment, but she agreed. I also told her that creating this perfect, queer family narrative wasn't going to fly. Our son has a mother and father, and he spends equal time with both of us. He is not her partner's son, he's our son, and if she wants a child with her wife, she can have one on her own. The courts would likely side with me, considering my involvement in his daily life and the fact that I work from home. I've made it a priority to ensure he has stable relationships with both of us, but if she tries to erase me from his life, I'll fight for full custody, no matter the consequences. At this point, I didn't want to argue any further, so I ended the conversation. I recorded it secretly because I wanted to have proof in case anything escalated. I'll admit, I've been holding on to a lot of anger towards my ex since the divorce. I haven't shown it to her or my son because I don't want it to be used against me, and I've been going to therapy to work through it, but hearing her talk about our marriage today really hurt. I spent 7 years with this woman, and her betrayal still stings deeply. After the conversation, I reached out to my lawyer friend again, and he reassured me that they would have to kidnap my son to get him out of my custody. He said that the current custody agreement we have is very thorough. If I want full custody, I can pursue it, but I need to be sure it's what's best for my son. I don't want him to grow up without either of his parents, as that wouldn't be healthy for him. Right now, I'm not going to sue for full custody. My ex is still a good mother, and I want my son to have a positive relationship with both of us. He's the kind of kid who speaks up if something isn't right, so I'll know if they continue any of their nonsense. As for the Spanish lessons, I'm not against them, it's just that he doesn't enjoy them. I suggested trying a different language that he might like more. I didn't mention it to my ex at the time, but I now realize she was pushing for Spanish because of the potential move to Spain. I really appreciate all the support I've received here. Your insights helped me realize some things I hadn't considered, especially the possibility of her planning to move to Spain. It's been eye-opening, and I'm grateful for all of your input.